Okay. Our best wishes. Jen, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Commission, Director Talbot. It is good to be here, and hopefully you find this information helpful in your decision making. So, just an outline, we're going to run through a number of different things. We're going to start with a summary of wolf biology and population dynamics, just a snapshot. Yes?
I find your background very interesting. You tell everybody you're not one of my kids, but I'm real proud of you.
Thank you, Commissioner Anselmi. He's asking that I share my background. So I grew up in Michigan, started working wolves in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan as an undergrad student in 2000. And since that time, wolves have been my career with stints in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, Isle Royale National Park, Ontario, Canada for 5 years, New Mexico with the Game and Fish Department there for a stint before moving to Wyoming. So wolves are what I do, and so that's my background. Does that meet your needs, Commissioner Anselmi?
You're very humble, but yes, thank you.
So we'll get a snapshot of wolf biology and population dynamics just to set the stage, because that's really the critter on the ground, and we don't choose what wolves are going to be. That is what they are. So that's what all the context of our wolf management is involved in. So we'll talk about wolf legal status in Wyoming, the status of the population currently, the proposed 2017 wolf hunting season, so that's Chapter 47 regulation and the proposed changes that we've made, and how we came to propose the numbers in particular. And then a summary of public comments from the public comment period. So wolf biology, population dynamics. So just a number of very important things about wolves that drive a lot of what they do. Wolves are social animals, and that determines a lot of their life history. And again, their life history is what we look at to set our management decision-making process and our framework. So social, meaning they live in packs. So wolf packs are generally an unrelated male and an unrelated female that produce young every year. And some of those young stay with the pack, usually till their second year. So a pack is comprised of, in that sense, two unrelated animals that breed and their offspring from the current and previous year. Those packs cooperatively hunt for prey. They share the prey that they do kill, so there's different roles, so to say. While they hunt, they cooperatively raise young. So the breeding animals have the pups. There's 1 litter a year generally per pack, and then all of the other animals in the pack assist in raising those young, particularly after the young are weaned at 6 to 8 weeks. They also hold exclusive territory, so part of their sociality is to maintain a territory in which they have all the resources they need to survive. So you very rarely hear about migratory wolves. They have once in a while, but it's rare. So they defend territories from neighboring packs, and it's like defending your house or more your refrigerator, so to say. So in that way, they structure themselves across the landscape in these units, and you'll see some maps of what that looks like in a moment. Wolves are carnivores. This is why, for the most part, they're controversial. So they're carnivores. They're circumpolar across the northern hemisphere, and wherever they live, they primarily subsist on large ungulates, so large hoofed mammals. In Wyoming, that's primarily elk due to the abundance and the risk for reward that an elk offers, if that makes sense. Moose are secondary, I'd say, and then we have other animals, deer, pronghorn, bison, all of bighorn sheep, all to a lesser degree, wolves prey on them. So, and being carnivores, livestock are large ungulates, and so they are a potential prey item for wolves, as you guys know. And wolves are extremely mobile. This gets demonstrated over and over again. So for packs, they move about 10 miles a day on average within their territories. So they're constantly moving. We get a lot of talk about but I see tracks in this drainage, in this drainage, in this drainage, in this drainage, there has to be more than one pack. And say, well, it doesn't take long for wolf tracks to form when you're moving 10 miles a day. So also dispersers cover extremely long distances. The map that you're seeing in front of you is a map of a wolf we collared in 2014. It dispersed May 1st, 2014. Went south to Pinedale in 23 hours, crossed, mind you, this is May with snowpack still in the mountains, crossed the Wind River Range, Fremont Lake to Bull Lake there. Spent most of the fall in the Ferris and Green Mountain areas, then left that area, traveled widely across south central Wyoming, and ended up in north central Colorado where the collar fell off. So far as we know, that wolf was alive at that time because it was still moving like a wolf, then the collar fell off. That collar had failed. We didn't know where it was until some people recreating in Colorado picked it up. So sent it back to us. We downloaded the data. Altogether, you're seeing about a 300-mile linear distance between the start point and the end point. But if you take that line that it followed in that year and a half, it moved over 5,400 miles. So we're talking about an animal that moves. And that is important as we talk about genetic interchange amongst wolf subpopulations in the Northern Rockies. So wolf population dynamics, obviously we're here because wolf populations can expand rapidly if limitations are removed. For the Northern Rockies, that was just getting them back. So wolves were reintroduced and the population expanded quickly. We'll talk about that. I have some graphs. Really what limits a wolf population is primarily prey availability. So prey availability coupled with suitable habitat, they go hand in hand. And human-caused mortality would be the other limitation for most wolf populations across the world. It's not always a limitation. It depends on the level of mortality, but obviously wolves were extirpated at one point, and that was from human causes. So in Wyoming, populations appear limited by suitable habitat, and then human-caused mortality playing a secondary role in that respect. So what we'll show is some maps of that in a moment. Most wolf populations are resilient to human-caused mortality. It seems like only having 1 litter per pack per year isn't a good system, but what you get is more efficient survival of those pups because they are working as a group to raise those pups. So a pack of 5 wolves can have a litter of 5 wolves and double in a year. So it does make populations rapidly expandable. And also makes them resilient to human-caused mortality. If you look at from 2000 to 2016 in Wyoming, so this is including some periods of not a lot of population growth, but on average, the population grew 16% a year, and that was with a 28% average documented human-caused mortality rate. We know that there's unknown human-caused mortalities as well, so the fact that we're documenting that 16% growth over that time, in order to stabilize that population, there would have had to be 16% more wolves killed every year, if that makes sense. It's on top of that 28%. So very resilient. And that's part of our job, is to monitor that, look at how the population responds to human-caused mortality. And in the context we're talking today, that's primarily hunting. And we adapt our management approach based on the data we collect. And so a lot of what we'll talk about as we talk about the proposed seasons is the data. So wolf legal status, it's been a long road. Wolves were reintroduced in 1995 and 1996 in Yellowstone. They were an experimental non-essential population. That was the designation. It's Section 10J of the ESA that allowed for greater management flexibility. Well, the wolf population met recovery criteria in 2002. So within 7 years, the population in the Northern Rockies met recovery criteria and qualified for delisting. That put forth the process of working towards delisting between the states and the Fish and Wildlife Service, and led to the first delisting in 2008. They were relisted shortly after the delisting rule was published, by court order, which prompted another round of working towards delisting. And in Wyoming, they were delisted in September 2012 again, immediately challenged in court, and not immediately, but 2 years later, wolves were relisted by court order out of Washington, D.C. That decision was appealed by the Fish and Wildlife Service with the state of Wyoming as an intervener. And the appeals court in March overturned the lower court ruling and made their overturning effective April 25th, 2017. So wolves were delisted again in Wyoming, April 25th. We took over management and immediately began working on the season setting process. So just for a reminder, wolves are managed in accordance with that 2012 U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service delisting rule, with Wyoming statutes that are in place, with the 2011 Wyoming Gray Wolf Management Plan, and with Commission Regulations Chapters 21 and 47. So 47 is what we're talking about today. So that's the summary, and really the goal of the Endangered Species Act is to recover species, and that was successful. And so a lot of people look at the delisting process as a negative. It's a positive in that respect. That was always the plan. It was the plan in the 1987 Gray Wolf Recovery Plan for the Northern Rockies, and it's come to fruition. So what are we required to do as a state? This is pretty bare bones, I guess you'd say, as far as our basic requirements, but we're required to manage, and we agreed to manage, for at least 10 breeding pairs, I'll define that in a second, and at least 100 wolves in Wyoming outside Yellowstone National Park and the Wind River Reservation at the end of the calendar year. So a breeding pair is an adult female and adult male wolf in a pack that raise at least 2 pups of the year to the end of December. So it's really just a measure of reproductive success and a measure that the population is reproducing as it should. So that's what we agreed to, but there's a broader statewide requirement to have at least 15 breeding pairs and at least 150 wolves statewide, so including Yellowstone National Park and the Wind River Reservation at the end of the calendar year. What that means is we expect Yellowstone and the Wind River Reservation to contribute at least 5 breeding pairs and at least 50 wolves to the population. Usually they contribute 8 breeding pairs and 100 to